The Medal of Honor. It is the nation's highest award that can be bestowed to a member of the armed forces for valor in action against an enemy force. For nearly 150 years, it has been presented by the President in the name of Congress and on behalf of the American people to men and women of the armed forces who have distinguished themselves conspicuously by gallantry and intrepidity at the risk of their lives above and beyond the call of duty. In December 1861, in the midst of the Civil War, President Abraham Lincoln signed a bill into law establishing the Navy's Medal of Honor, the first of its kind. Of the millions of men and women who have served in all the armed forces, nearly 3,500 have been awarded this distinction. Of those, 44 have been presented to the naval aviation community. And so it is appropriate to commemorate and honor these recipients of the Medal of Honor and to recognize their bravery and sacrifice for the United States. We will forever be in their debt. William A. Moffett, while credited with being the architect of naval aviation, began his career as a surface line officer. In 1914, during the Revolution in Mexico, he made a courageous landing of his ship, the USS Chester, in the harbor at Veracruz. He was able to maneuver his ship without the assistance of a harbor pilot or navigation lights, and had the USS Chester's guns in position to support sailors and Marines on shore the following morning. Admiral Moffett was one of the first from the aviation community to receive the Medal of Honor. He would later be known as the Air Admiral. He went on to establish an aviation training program at the Naval Training Center, Great Lakes, Illinois. He supported the creation of scout planes and airships and oversaw the inception of the aircraft carrier, all while fighting to keep naval aviation a part of the Navy and from being separated into an early Air Force. Moffett was truly a pioneer of naval aviation. On September 25, 1919, not far from where we are seated today, Chief Machinist Mate Francis Ormsby was flying over the training grounds of Pensacola Bay when he witnessed a plane go into a tailspin and plunge into the water. After making a prompt landing, Ormsby wasted no time diving into the water and making his way toward the crash site. Ormsby found the gunner amongst the wreckage, pulling him out just enough to get his head above the water until more help arrived. Unfortunately, the pilot did not survive, as often was the case in a harrowing and dangerous early days of flight training in Pensacola. For his efforts that day, Ormsby would be presented the Medal of Honor. At the time of the rescue, Ormsby was an enlisted crew member. However, he would go on to earn his Wings of Gold in 1920, placing him in history as Naval Aviation Pilot number 25. The World War II era saw some of the Navy's most iconic pilots. Among them were Edward Butch O'Hare, a Naval Academy graduate. He started his training at Naval Air Station Pensacola in 1939, flying the famed Yellow Peril and the Stearman biplane. It was his flight on the morning of February 20th, 1942 that would make O'Hare famous. The carrier USS Lexington picked up on its radar a formation of Japanese bombers 12 miles out and closing fast. O'Hare and his wingman, Marion DeFilo, were the Lexington's only protection. They raced out and met 9 Mitsubishi Betty bombers only a few miles away. DeFilo's guns jammed, leaving Butch O'Hare alone to protect the carrier. With just 34 seconds of ammunition available, O'Hare managed to make 4 precise passes, shooting down 5 bombers and damaging another. The surviving enemy planes under anti-aircraft fire from the Lexington were denied any hits with all 10 of their 500-pound bombs. O'Hare returned to the USS Lexington only having taken a single round in the port wing. It was later calculated that O'Hare managed to use only 60 rounds for every bomber he destroyed, and that his excellent marksmanship may have saved the carrier from serious damage or even total loss. O'Hare became the Navy's first flying ace of World War II and was promptly selected for promotion to lieutenant commander. After being killed in action, the Navy christened the first USS O'Hare, a Navy destroyer. Then, in 1949, the city of Chicago renamed their airport from Orchard Place Airport to Chicago O'Hare International Airport in his honor. Throughout the years, man has proven his courage and commitment to his fallen brothers through harrowing acts of rescue in the gravest of danger. Perhaps one of the most famous rescue attempts was made during the Korean War by a young lieutenant junior grade named Thomas Hudner. Hudner witnessed his squadron mate, Lieutenant Jesse Brown, go down behind enemy lines under anti-aircraft fire. Without hesitation, Hudner was determined to attempt a rescue. He skillfully and deliberately crash-landed gear up in the mountains of North Korea. When Lieutenant Hudner finally made his way to the burning wreckage, in freezing, sub-zero temperatures, he began to pack the cockpit and fuselage with snow with his bare hands, trying to keep the flames away from Brown, who was trapped inside. Unable to remove him, Hudner returned to his aircraft to radio a rescue helicopter, disregarding the ongoing threat of the enemy. But despite the assistance of the rescue pilot and valiant efforts of Hudner in such perilous conditions, they were unable to free Lieutenant Brown from the mangled wreckage and persistent battle against time, flames, and freezing cold weather. For his actions, Thomas Hudner received the Medal of Honor. There is no other citation in the United States military that holds such prominence and prestige as the Medal of Honor, which may be why recipients humbly state that the medals they wear for others. They wear them for those whose actions were not seen, those whose singular acts of bravery were never witnessed, those who didn't come home. Today we recognize and remember not only the recipients of this award, but also the values and spirit for which their actions were taken, to go above and beyond the call of duty for their fellow man and for the country.